rolling sound, quiet. Here we go. Reading. 1.57. And starting right and action.
All right. Hi, I'm Andrew Disney, and I'm here with the Lone Star Film Festival. And right now we're here to talk about DannyBoy. DannyBoy is a coming-of-age rom-com set in 1981 in a small town in Ireland. And it's about an anxious, stuttering teen who struggles to save his demented family while caught in a love triangle between gorgeous playgirl Carla and the nerdy Donna. So I'm here with the filmmakers. I'm here with Ferdia McAnna. I'm here with Richie Kearney. And yeah, we're here to just jump in and just talk about what it was like, making this movie and where it came from. So I'm going to just jump in, just talking to you, Ferdia. I just wanted to, you're a former rock star, you're a novelist, and you're a filmmaker. You kind of, you do it all, seems like.
A bit of it all, yeah. When I had hair, I was a rock and roller. And then, when my hair turned invisible, I turned into writing and into filmmaking. And DannyBoy is based on one of my books. Because nobody else was going to make a film of it, I decided I'd do it. And
that's what I saw. Yeah.
I wrote Richie to try and get some money to do it. And we did a micro-budget film that was absolutely batshit crazy. And we did it the way we wanted to do it. And we did it in a small town in Ireland called Naas and Fallon, two small towns, where there's kind of big sky and people are delightfully bonkers and crazy and things happen that shouldn't happen, and we capitalized on that. So we made our film in 3 weeks, and we're delighted that it's in the Lone Star Festival. We're absolutely delighted. So it is a rom-com, and it is 1981 when everybody had long hair and a flock of seagulls and electronic music was dominating the airwaves, and this young fella was trying to make some good choices, but amusing us by making bad choices all the way through. So that's what the whole idea was. A summer in the life. That's
great. And yeah, I see that your first film, was a thriller all about Eva. And so for your second film, yeah, you said you adapted one of your novels, The Ship Inspector. I just want to know, what brought you back to that? What is this something you'd always thought about adapting?
Oh, I did think about it, but nearly 14 years ago, it was adapted, and some money came in and disappeared, and the production fell totally apart. So, it only took 14 years to make it, but really what happened was we were lucky. We applied for money and we got an investor who believed in the script, and the investor put up a small amount of money and we raised some money ourselves. And suddenly, after 14 years, we were shooting that summer. It only took about, I guess, 2 or 3 weeks to set it all up. We brought a young team together, young actors, young backstage personnel, Alan Rogers, a cinematographer. I co-wrote it with a screenwriter called Mary Duffin. So it was a co-write, and then I directed it, and Richie produced it. And Richie is from Naas and Fallon. He's from Kildare. He actually owns the whole county of Kildare. So the reason we were able to do it so cheaply is that Richie knows everybody, and he has a line in bullshit that makes people doing things for nothing. And so that was the reason that it was able to take place.
That's great. It's definitely what you need to make an independent film. You need somebody who can champion it that way. So when you adapted it, I think it's so interesting that you took a novel and you adapted it with another writer.
Yeah.
How was that, like, approaching the material with someone else?
Well, I figured I was too close to it. I figured it was my novel, and it was a chapter set in 1981 when I guess Ireland was kind of technicolor as opposed to black and white, in the sense that young people were able to dress the way they wanted, wear their hair the way they wanted. There was a lot of choice of music. Punk had happened, so there were a lot of bands around. And this kid was coming into the summer where his dad disappeared. He was trying to hold his family together, and he was trying to find love because he was listening to all the wrong friends and frenemies who were giving him crap advice. So he made the wrong choice, and then the right choice, of course, was right in front of his eyes. But I wanted the film to be a bit surreal as well. But I figured I was too close to it after adapting it and writing it. So I asked Mary Duffin, would she help out? So she wrote the first part, rewrote the first part of it and handed it back to me, and she came up with the title DannyBoy. It was originally called Inspector. And so I'm grateful to her. And then I rewrote what she wrote, and then we collaborated. And so that's how the film came to place. We actually improvised some of it when we were shooting. Improvised. So because we were dealing with comedians on the set, not just backstage, but in front of camera as well. And people like Paddy C. Courtney, who played the politician. He basically, I wrote him in, and then he kind of improvised some of the lines himself. So there was a bit of that. About 1/20th of it was improvised, but only after or before scenes. Like, we kept the core scenes. So it was a fun shoot. It was difficult, but to do it all in 3 weeks was crazy. But we did it.
You did it. That's great. And I read that you were a ship inspector.
I was.
Yeah.
and for those of you who don't know what a ship inspector is, it's animal customs. So basically, if a ship comes in, it used to be ships before the planes arrived in, but you'd get an armband as a student, and you'd be a student ship inspector, be sent out to investigate the holds of ships or the baggage compartment of airplanes. And if there were animals traveling without licenses, you'd place the animal under close arrest and bring it to Dublin Zoo, where it'd be quarantined for 6 months. This was difficult to do if it was a baby elephant and you're on your own, but generally speaking, it worked out. It was a kind of a surreal type of job, and it still exists today.
That's right. It's so interesting. I love that. I think when I was watching it, I just thought, I know what I was struck by is that, it's so much about transition. For this main character, Danny, there's a transition in his life, it's a transition for the family, but then you're also capturing, I feel like, a transition maybe in Ireland, and especially with the music, how you're talking about going from punk to, I don't know whether, what's the, kind of new wave or goth or new romantic.
New romantic, yeah.
Yeah. And I guess in your life, I was reading how, you had been with the Gravediggers, and then you went to a new band. Was there an autobiographical element to that, of like just the transition you were experiencing?
A little bit. It was more based on stories I heard from, Dublin, where, like, Dublin is a small city where people say that it's the kind of city where you get up and you can see your mistakes walking down the street towards you. So everybody knows everybody, even though it's now, quite expanded and it's multicultural and diverse and all the rest of it. It's still a small town, but I wanted to focus on a small town like Howth, where I grew up, which is just a small fishing town. So I wanted to see what life would be like when somebody's trying to transition out of being a kid into being an adult. And the quickest way to do that sometimes is through falling in love. And nearly always you fall in love with the wrong person, or at least if you're unlucky, you fall in love with a disastrous person, and it puts you off. So this DannyBoy figure isn't really autobiographical in that sense. He's kind of based on a bunch of people I know. But being in bands was, yes. And all the music you hear in the soundtrack, nearly all of it, there were Irish bands that existed at the time who made records that should have been hits internationally, but there wasn't the record companies that could get them out of the country. And so various bands like the Atrix and the Pop Mechanics and DC9, they were all quite famous bands in the 80s. And so I got we collaborated with a woman called Elvira Butler, who was our executive producer. And she ran an independent record label in Ireland for 40 years, bringing out this kind of music, from punk to new wave to new romantic. And she helped us get the songs. And we even got Joe Jackson as well. She really going out there. Yeah. So, and we had a couple of new singer-songwriters that sounded 80s, and we kind of brought them in. So we mostly gave a platform to young musicians and young actors and young filmmakers.
Yeah. Hey, Richie, I wanted to ask you, so was it had such an amazing soundtrack. For the production of it, what was the challenges of putting together a soundtrack like that?
Well, as Ferdy was saying, we were lucky enough to team up with Elvira Butler, who runs Rico's Records, and obviously Ferdy being a rock star all his life, he kind of was able to pull in a lot of his music and favors from friends as well. So we, as Ferdy was saying, we'd kind of teamed up with Elvira. She got us some fantastic music of the era, as well as contemporary kind of music of, there's even one, our first AD, Brian Dooley, he composed a song for the piece, and then there's a couple of other people who did some modern pieces as well as music of the era. So we're delighted with the soundtrack. I haven't got in the background now. This is just a mock-up tape we did. This is actually a USB key. This is actually not the soundtrack yet anyway, but that's something we'll come back to. But we're delighted with the soundtrack of it, and if you've watched the way you watched our film, we think it really kind of nails the era and really kind of get you into the kind of the mood of the film as well.
Totally, yeah, definitely captured like a great moment in time, which I really loved. And I guess I want to talk about the casting now. I think you talked about how you had great. I was really struck by the cast and the improvisers. I really loved the actress who played Kathleen. I thought she just always just jumped off the screen. Yes.
Clelia Murphy. Clelia Murphy's quite a star in Ireland. She has been a soap opera star for 25 years in a show called Fair City, which would be like Days of Our Lives or one of those long-running ones, or the cross between Days of Our Lives and Dynasty, kind of that kind of thing. But she's now kind of appearing in various movies, and at one point she was even the voice of the government, warning against the virus and stuff. So she's done many things, but she committed to this film a long time ago. And in fact, I think even 3 years before we made it, she'd read the script and took part in a reading. So she was the reason we could launch it, I guess, because people had heard of her. And so they came in on the basis of it. Most of the others, with the exception of Paddy C. Courtney, who is a famous comedian and actor and writer, were quite young. Like Dara Byrne, who played Danny, was I don't think he'd ever done a film before. Yeah. Lucy Jones, who played Donna, hadn't. The girl, most of the cast were quite new, and they had done a bit like Jack Hickey, is my nephew, and he played the character Rory, which is an unsympathetic character, the older brother.
Yeah, right.
And it was probably the last time he could play a character like that, because I think he's gone on now to do other things. But mind you, he was in Game of Thrones once naked, so that's not a bad thing to move on to. Coming away from being naked in Game of Thrones.
You're right.
So I love working with the young cast. A lot of them were from Kildare, and they weren't being seen in Dublin because like they were outside the pale, outside the city limits in a sense. It's kind of like trying to launch your acting career from somewhere outside Los Angeles or New York. It's it's a tricky one sometimes. So it was great. We auditioned and we were lucky. We got the cast. We got everybody cast very quickly. That's my memory, Richie. We got a cast quite quickly, didn't we? Once we set in motion.
Yeah, we'd actually, if I recall, you saw Dara in a play, and you came out and says, "Yeah, we have our DannyBoy," and I was like, "Oh, we better meet this chap first and have a." And he goes, "Trust me, this is our DannyBoy," and I never doubt Ferdy. He's brilliant with casting, and he totally nailed it. Our lead actor is fantastic, as well as the other cast that Ferdy mentioned as well. So yeah,
that's right.
We had Alexandra Maloney as well, had been in A Phantom Thread, a small feature film with Daniel Day-Lewis, and so she played Carla. And then we were looking for others, and then Helena Gagan played the little sister, the narrator, who was my student at a musical theatre college I teach in. So she was just, so she wanted to be an actress as well, but I don't think she ever intended to end up in a film about 1981 and becoming a goth new romantic dressed in red and cutting her own hair off in the things. But I think we were lucky, and that young cast kept us going, because at one stage we even lost a day's filming and we thought we were going to be in Disasterville. But everyone was upbeat, and we had the crew. We had I take my hat off to Alan Rogers, the DOP, because he likes the same movies I do: Ferris Bueller, anything by John Carpenter, genre films. And so we wanted to go for bright colors. We wanted to make this a lively, upbeat film that really kind of wasn't a pressure to watch. Would have a lot of darkness in it, a little bit about family, but really basically was upbeat and take your mind off everything.
Well, just to jump in there very quickly, just the entire crew that, Alan Rogers, our DOP, was brilliant, but even though we were blessed with a budget, it was quite modest, that we were still able to kind of pull in favors, and somehow we kind of came across through kind of people we knew, people we didn't really know that well to begin with, and we were just so lucky with the crew and that we had, as well as the cast, and from our production designers and people on our kind of costume, hair, makeup, all the way through to everybody else. It's the old cliches, but we did kind of, when you're working every day for like 3 weeks back to back, you do kind of muck in as a family, and between there's the love and dislike relationships as well. And sure, we kind of we just kind of plowed on, because it was fairly intense, but it turned out the way it was because everybody just kind of worked so hard for the project that they believed in, and Ferdy's vision, obviously, they kind of believed in that as well. And we actually had a community kind of rowing behind us as well, so it wasn't just the cast and the crew. Like my hometown, they kind of rowed in behind as well, like people who kind of helped out with vintage cars to extras. I was picking up the phone to people who I hadn't seen for a while to say, "Hey, you want to be an extra in a film?" And they just thought it was just kind of one guy with a DSLR, kind of mucking around. "Oh, Richie, you still at this?" And then we'd kind of bullied a few of the kind of the family members in as well. And before we knew it, the whole community in the town got behind the whole project as well. So it was excellent. As Ferdy said, some parts of my hometown haven't moved on from the 80s, so it looked like even better production design than what it was. So we were happy with all.
Yeah, no, I was really struck that you did a period, with the indie budget, you did a period film, and I thought the production designers did such a great job, and the exteriors, that you still, it was never. I felt like that the spell was never broken. I kind of believed it was 1981, which is great. With the cast, the young cast, that none of them, a lot of them probably weren't even born, until the 90s or the 2000s.
I was the only one alive in 1981. Everybody else hadn't been born yet. So I just want to point that out. And they disputed a lot of things as if they remembered. So they were they were very good. They were brilliant on the thing. The thing I learned from this was that if you want to make a film, you can. If you really want to, you just have to be patient. You have to cast around, get the right people, the right crew together, and start with a short film and then work your way up. But I think it was a big challenge for us to do a full-length feature film on a micro budget. Everybody got paid. Everybody got fed. We just didn't get enough. They didn't get paid what they should have got paid, and they probably got less food than they were entitled to. But we had a lot of fun, and everyone had a part there in the film in a lot of ways, because it was it was low budget. It was never going to break the box office or anything like that. So we're happy that it finds an audience over time, over a long time across the world. And we're delighted that we're being seen in the States now, because a lot of the music would have been inspired by American music, and, a lot of the fashions and the styles and the ideas, so it's great. It's great to be kind of connected again.
I love that. I feel like when you make it, anytime you make an indie movie, there's so many miracles, I feel like, that have to be pulled off. And there's so many, you have like the really fun parts, but also the really challenging, days. What were some of the most challenging scenes to shoot, or the more challenging parts of making this movie?
I think probably some of them would say the sex scenes, even though because there was we threw everybody out of the set that didn't need to be there. But the thing about shooting intimate scenes like that is people crack up and they laugh no matter what. So it took a while to get those done. And at one stage we took to singing Bill Withers' Lean on Me to get through this without cracking up. So every time anyone laughed, we broke into a chorus of Bill Withers songs. That was the kind of way we handled it. But I think probably the most challenging thing was when we lost a day's filming and had to figure out how to do it again, because it wasn't clear to us always what we'd missed. So we just had to shoot everything again. And the thing is, if something like that happens, it works out better.
Yeah.
It's a strange thing, but you capture something you didn't imagine, and everyone rows in together and everyone gets it together. So you get a real community thing going. And also, it's a lovely bubble to be in for a number of weeks when you're doing a film. You're making magic and you're involved in, storytelling, and it should be fun. It's hard work, but if it's not fun, I think, we decided we would have fun, even though we had 10 stays, and we had a lot of people crammed into very small spaces, because we used real sets, real houses, real rooms, real streets, real locations. We got permission, of course. We paid for them when necessary, but it was a challenge, making sure that everyone was safe.
Yeah. And wait, when you say you lost a day's filming, did you actually lose like footage of a day? What does that mean?
Well, let's say that one of the little USBs had to be transferred. And instead it wasn't transferred, it was actually used again. So
no.
So that was the thing. So it's probably around there somewhere. But we prayed to the pagan gods of Irish history, and they helped us out. They sent me some extra hours and extra days. And really, it worked out well. I suppose that was the most difficult thing. And after that, really, I suppose if you think about it, the most difficult thing.
That's still a contentious situation, so we probably shouldn't bring it up. I've been trying to use the Men in Black thing on Ferdia to forget about that day.
Sorry.
Forget about it.
I don't want to bring back bad memory. So let me go to what was the most fun day? What was the most fun? Just when you felt you were in the zone.
It was a combination, actually. One of the toughest days, and one of the funnest days was nearly the end of the shoot. We can't really go into too much because it kind of gives it away a little bit, but it involves kind of it's a lake scene, a scene with a lake, a car. I can't give too much away, but it kind of involves the ending. But it was a very dramatic scene that involved yeah, you know, a lot of the ensemble cast kind of getting involved, and kind of there was a mix of it was, how do you say it, like in terms of acting, an actor's point of view, kind of pushed the range of the actors in terms of from comedy to drama to a bit of sadness as well. So I don't know, Ferdy, what do you think? What in terms of the fun days? I suppose the music gig scenes were pretty epic. We had a lot of actors getting involved and dressed up as new romantics.
We had, yeah, I suppose that there were, it's a strange thing to say, but most of the days were quite joyous, even the ones that had problems, mainly because we had everybody bonded, everyone connected. So people helped each other out. So when you have a small indie film, you don't have the same, you have more pressure on you in some ways, but you don't have the big studios looking over your shoulder, trying to change the script on you or trying to change certain scenes or looking at rushes or dailies. You're doing that yourself. So it was really felt like we all were making this film. We all, you know, had a share in it, and we were all responsible for it. And then when it came out and got shown in the end, people were very happy with it. It's very hard to market an indie film. You have to, you know, you have to do it in a kind of roundabout way, and it probably takes a year and a half longer than it would do if you were at the studio. But we're happy to do it. I'm the sort of person that if I get fed up for a while, it doesn't last. You know, if I get angry, fed up, it doesn't last. It doesn't put me in a mood for a day. I get on with things. So I hope that everybody on the film had a good experience, and because I don't think it's worth it if you don't, especially if you're not getting paid, you know, Hollywood money, and you know, especially if you want everyone to give their best. So it was a good experience, and in fact, I still miss it, and we can't wait to do another one. It's not going to be DannyBoy 2 though. It'll be very different. It'll be something different.
Yeah. What do you want to do now? Yeah, you've done a thriller. Now you've done this coming of age. Like, what's on?
Well, we're going to do the only thing possible to do in our situation. We're going to do Dracula, because it's an Irish film. It's an Irish concept, but we're going to do a rock and roll version of it. Rock and roll Dracula set in Dublin, and we're probably going to set it maybe in the 60s. I don't know quite yet, but we have a script, we have an idea, and we don't have funders yet. So if anyone out there wants to come to Dublin and have a bit of crack making a film with us, based on the original Irish legend written by Bram Stoker, who's from Fairview in Dublin, just down the road. That's what we're trying to do, Dracula. So,
oh man, I love that. I love going to Dracula. That's a great. Yes.
That's the plan.
Yeah, it's great. And then, Richie. So, is it your production company that was behind this? Is it Frame? What's the?
Yeah, Frame It Productions. We did a kind of myself and Ferdy set up a kind of a side wing production company called DannyBoy Films for this production. Then we did a co-production then with my business then, myself and Phil Lewis's business then, called Frame It Productions. But it was basically kind of you know, all in. We do kind of, that's why we were able to kind of do all the editing in-house. You know, and we were able to kind of take the footage in as we went along. We have our production company was only a couple of miles from where we were shooting as well, so it was handy to get the footage, take it in, you know, kind of to do everything else like that, because our base is there anyway, you know, so it all worked out pretty well.
That's great. And how long have you had this company? How long have you been doing that?
Since 2007.
Okay.
2007. We started off part-time. We were making short films, and we thought we were going to kind of hit the big time about 2007, 2008. We hit the big time in 2020 with DannyBoy. So here we are today. But yeah, over the years then we've been doing, we started off slow. We were doing a couple of shorts. We teamed up with Ferdy about 5 or 6 years ago as well. I was one of the writers on All About Eva, Ferdy's thriller made in Kildare. And from that, it just opened up kind of a lot of networking opportunities, because some of the people who we were meeting through our first feature ended up kind of working on other productions with us, especially DannyBoy. Kind of, we got to know more people then through that. And then it's, I suppose the community, the filmmaking community in Ireland, it's kind of, you know, and like there's different networking groups you have on Facebook, and, you know, you're meeting people, like it's not a massive, you know, pool of people. So you get to know kind of a lot of people in different industries, you know, should I say different departments and actors and different things like that, pretty handy. And we're quite lucky, even though sometimes we don't have the climate that you might have in the background, Andrew. So we're a little bit jealous of that right now. So, but our landscapes are fantastic over here. So we have everything from
Yes.
that you see in the pictures, basically from rural to lakes, you know, to different landscapes of kind of urban as well. So there's a lot we can actually do within maybe 100-mile radius here, you know, and yeah, I nearly forgot the question you asked me at this stage.
Oh no, I feel like now we're just having a conversation, which is great. Great. Well, I think we're kind of coming towards the end here. Just for a film festival, I feel like there's always people who are curious about how should I make a movie, or how should I what if I I think there's a lot of people who want to know like how to go make a movie, and do you have any words of wisdom for you?
Well, I'd say a script, a concept and a script. A good log line, 25 words that will sell your film, just to explain it like an elevator pitch. A really good character, a character you want to make a film about, and then all the other characters will come out about it. So the screenplay is the cheapest part of filmmaking, if you think about it, but it's the foundation. Nothing can happen without it. Then if you have a good screenplay, then you can improvise, then you can do all sorts of things. And after your screenplay, try and get a tribe, try and form a tribe of like-minded people who want to make a film. You do need money. It's always going to cost you money, but it doesn't necessarily have to cost you the earth. You can improvise, and you can turn a house. If you borrow a house, you can turn it into 3, 4, 5, 6 different locations, on the outside as well. So you can really use your imagination, and it's like punk rock. Punk rock happened because the giant bands were just not giving anyone any space. Punk was all about doing it yourself. If you got something to say, learn 3 chords, play the tune, go out and do it. I think filmmaking needs a similar approach sometimes, especially when you're kicking off, when you want to do a first feature. And never give up, don't give up.
The tribe is a massive thing, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. There's always going to be kind of a like-minded filmmaker Facebook page, and whether you're shy or not, just make the call to people, or, put the feeders out. But as Ferdy said, if you have a log line, a script, like even if the script isn't that good, once you have a solid kind of log line, you can start teaming up with people. But it is all about collaboration and putting the feeders out there, picking up the phone and just making a call and making a move, And even if you don't have a good script, you'll find a writer online to collaborate with. But getting your tribe is a massive thing, as Ferdy said.
That's great. Oh man, well, that's great advice. Well, I feel like that's kind of wrapping it up. I love ending there. Trying to think what I wish we weren't going through this COVID time. I would love to meet y'all someday. Yeah, let me know if y'all ever come into Texas.
Andrew, we promise to bring a bunch of rock and roll Dublin vampires to you as soon as possible.
Yes, that sounds great. I love that a lot. So I'll let you know.
If you come to Ireland, you can be one of those rock and roll vampire groups.
I would love, one day I'd love to come to Ireland one day. So great. Well, I think that wraps it up here. I think, again, I think saying to the crowd here to Lone Star Film Festival, be sure to watch DannyBoy. It's a great coming of age movie. Has a great, captures such a time, 1981 in Ireland, just so well. And I can tell it's just made with a lot of heart, with a lot of passion from you and the team. So thank you so much, guys.
Thanks very much.
Thanks so much.